on the workbench. Today I have a compact disc player made by Magnavox. This one's a CDB582. This is a single disc player. Unit powers up. Let's just check it out here. Again, it looks like the disc tray might be sticking a bit. Yes, it's sticking. And there's not much torque on there. I think we have a belt problem on this one, which would be par for the course because it's pretty old and the belts do wear out. It might just be a belt problem. Like all the other Phillips units, these things use these torque screws. Fortunately, they all use the same size. So my one and only Torx bit that I have, this is a what does it say? 78 bit, I believe. 78-450. Anyway, I've only got the one Torx bit, and it seems to fit them all. It fits the cable boxes. It fits Phillips CD players. A lot of them use the same size. Okay. Here's the inner workings of this unit. Of course, the thing that makes a lot of these Phillips machines so popular was the TDA1541 digital to analog converter. A lot of audiophiles really like this converter. It was a really good converter that Phillips made, and just like people like the Burr Brown DACs, right? But that was one of the strengths of these players. You find a lot of collectors that collect these players, and they do it based on the fact that that DA converter really has a nice sound to it compared to some of the other ones out there. Okay, this one uses a big belt here to open and close the tray. I'm just going to see whether this thing's slipping at all. There's also a switch on here that activates when the tray reaches its end of its travel. And of course, like all Phillips units, they use the linear motor to drive the optical pickup. So these are a single laser, single spot laser, and they don't use tracking servos. So the actual lens here only moves up and down. It doesn't move side to side like on a conventional CD player. That the laser assembly is mounted on a sled, and the actual lens can move back and forth as well as up and down. On these ones, they doesn't. They actually swing the entire arm. So when a disc is playing on here, you'll actually see this thing going like this, tracking the disc as it spins. This one uses a conventional laser that points up. Some of the Magnavox, like the prior one that I serviced, you put the disc in upside down. The reason they did that was because with the lens facing up, of course, dust can land on it and obscure the lens. So the lens has to be cleaned once in a while on these ones. Whereas by mounting the optical block the opposite direction, of course the lens doesn't get obscured with dust. So that's something you got to do with these ones once in a while, is you have to clean them, because dust will fall in there. When there's no disc loaded, that laser assembly is facing up to the elements. And as you can see, there's nothing stopping dust from getting in there. But to clean it, it's very easy. You just flip that over like that, and you can access it to clean it. And it'll also come apart, by the way, if you lift it out like that. You can take it right off. So let's just load a disc and see what it does. 99 tracks, of course. Actually, there's 100 tracks, but it only goes to 99. track 99. It should go to 100 after this, but I don't know how the display is going to handle 100. So the display doesn't handle 100. It's playing track number 100, but it's showing still up as track 99. Interesting. See, my Sony will show 100 on it. So I'm back on this Magnavox again. I've been down for a few days as I was a bit sick there the last couple of days, and then I did a couple of Kodi installation videos for a couple of different media players and a review on a media player. So I'm back on this unit today. It is sticking a bit, so I'm going to pull the mechanism apart, and we'll see where this thing's sticking. Somewhere along the line, the tray does stick, and when you press the eject button you can hear it clunk and it won't eject. So I'm going to take the mechanism apart and see if we can see what's causing it to stick. Okay, get the front panel off now. Okay, front panel's off this unit now. Now I can take a look at the actual mechanism itself and just see what how this unit works. They're actually pretty straightforward. Unlike some of the Japanese machines which have complicated mechanisms, basically the motor on here just drives this tray back and forth, and the actual action of the tray moving forward is actually what lifts the disc clamp out of place. Because basically this just rides on a roller that is lifted up by the actual action of the disc plate moving. So I can actually take this entire disc clamp off just by lifting it up like this and removing the spring. The spring stays back here. Now here's the entire mechanism. As you can see, I can now pull the whole thing right out of the unit. It's an exceptionally simple design. This is probably one of the best designs I've ever seen in a CD player. I mean, you've got basically three pieces, right? You've got the bottom tray. The bottom tray just sits on rollers and it just locks in place like that. It drops into place. So as it moves back and forth, it slides up and down, and these rollers run along a track, and the whole unit just slides in place along a couple of runners. Just like that. I mean, it's such a wonderfully simple mechanism. And then just hook your spring back onto and drop that in place. And that's what stops the mechanism from coming out, stops the drawer from coming out all the way, is actually the back of this. And if you lift that up all the way, you can actually pull this out without actually having to remove it. So it's a really well designed, very, very simple system, the way it operates. Anyway, if we remove that, now I can take the belt off and change this belt that I feel is a little bit on the loose, maybe a little bit slippery side. So let's change out this belt. I'm also going to use this opportunity to get some isopropyl and clean the actual pulleys here, clean the groove out of the pulleys. What happens a lot of times on a lot of these belt drive units is that grease, that's used to lubricate the gears and stuff, migrates its way up onto the pulley just from centrifugal force when the unit's opening and closing, and it eventually gets on the belt and causes the belt to start slipping. So we'll replace the belt and clean up the pulleys. Here's the new one here. This one's got pretty good elasticity to it. So we'll put the belt around the pulley. And of course the pulley's still wet, so I have to let that dry. I'm going to lubricate the rest of the mechanism. I'm going to put some grease on these tabs here. Just put some lithium grease on there to lubricate it up, and then we'll put this one back together, because this unit appears to be working fine, other than the fact that some of this grease here, and there should be a switch down here too that I should really address. There should be a little switch down underneath this mechanism. Yeah, so you can see the switch right here. Right? It's a little micro switch there that gets activated when this closes down. It activates that switch. So this tells the unit when the disc is in place or not, so that it knows when to stop the motor from turning. So first I'm going to remove this old dried grease from the mechanism here. And then we'll get some new lithium-based grease here. And we're going to lubricate all the points that the disc assembly touches, including the gear a bit here. So now I've got some new grease on the mechanism. I'll put a little bit more on these tabs here, because the grease on here is dried up too. We don't want to put too much grease on. As I say, the saying goes, too much grease is worse than not enough. It can actually gum the mechanism up. So we want to just put a little bit of grease on, just to provide enough lubrication so that it's not going to bind. And then slide the mechanism back in place. Oops, wrong side. There we go. Okay, should be able to power this thing up now and observe how it opens and closes. Like a champ. Plug in my audio outputs. Got my sound effects CD going again there. shuffle. Okay. Goes right to track 40. Next one's going to go to 48. My discs are mixed up here. It's got a list of the sound effects. I actually have 4 volumes of these discs somewhere, but I can only find 2. But I got a bunch of them. 400 sound effects. I bought them at one time because I thought they might be cool to put on for sound effects on videos, but never really got around to using them much. Anyway, I think this thing's fixed. The trouble it was having was opening and closing. Oh yeah, it's got lots of torque on it now. Like I have to really, you can see when I hold it, you'll see it pushing out one side. That the old belt was quite badly worn, so new belt, lubricate the mechanism. This thing's good as new. The owner of this unit will be very happy. And now I can move on to another piece from the same owner. There, I think that's on. Yep, that's on, and then the 3 screws to hold the front panel back on using these Torx screws. This goes on, there's a little catch here that you push down to release it and it slides over. So we just put it on like that and like that. So for you guys that missed how I took it off, there's a little catch underneath here, you just pull it out of the way on the bottom and it slides over to the left. So I'll show you that catch just so you can see it. So here's the catch right here. You just release that catch, pull it down slightly, and then this slides over like that and off. That's how you take off the front panel. Took me a few minutes to figure that out. When I actually took the front panel off the unit, the unit came off quite easy without taking that off, but that makes it much easier. You just pull this little catch down, lift it or slide it to the left, and then the whole tray just comes off. It really makes short work of servicing one of these units, and it has to be, without any question, the easiest CD player to work on that I've ever worked on. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next video real soon.